What's going on, everyone? I am back, and with week 6 quickly approaching, you know what time it is. I have got my weekly game picks along with my locks of the week. Now, I probably won't be able to get this video out before tonight's Thursday night game, but I'll do my best getting it out as quick as I can. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Now, our first game of the week, Thursday night, we've got the Eagles at the Panthers, and both these teams sitting at a surprising 4-1. And I know it's early in the season, but this game could actually have some playoff implications if these teams both keep their trajectories going forward, because possibly home field advantage, first seed in the NFC, depending on how things play out. But as far as the Eagles are concerned, had a really nice, impressive win versus the Cardinals. They just put it on them. It's what was expected, and that's good. They're playing up to the expectations. Carson Wentz has played really well. The Eagles' defense, kind of that bend but don't break mentality. And on the flip side, the Panthers followed up their win versus the Patriots with a win in Detroit. Away win, and they almost gave it away towards the end of the game, but they were able to hold on, which was impressive. But to me, this game comes down to the quarterback play. And Wentz versus Cam Newton. To me, Wentz, even though he's only a sophomore, he has more consistency in his game versus Cam in what I've seen watching the Panthers for a very long time. The fact that Cam last week was only his second time with back-to-back 300-yard passing games is all you need to know in a guy that's been in the league for 6-7 years. He is just not a consistent passer, and I think he's a guy that makes mistakes. I think, he will probably be due for 1 or 2 interceptions this game. Defensively, I think the Panthers' defense, look, I really like that front seven, but I think in the back end, they're overrated. You saw Detroit put up points against them. You saw New England put up points against them. And I think the Eagles will be able to put up points against them, especially the way Wentz has been playing. I give the edge offensively to the Eagles. I think the Panthers are more turnover prone. It'll probably be a close game, don't get me wrong, but when it's all said and done, I like the Eagles to beat the Panthers in a close game. As far as the spread goes, Panthers at -2.5 at home. So like I said, I like the Eagles on the road actually, so I'm going to go and roll with them in terms of the spread as well. Moving on, we have got the Dolphins at the Falcons. Now, Miami sitting at 2-2, Falcons sitting at 3-1. Miami was able to take advantage of a Marcus Mariota-less team last week, get the win versus the Titans, but to me, they still have too many offensive inconsistencies. Cutler hasn't been able to gel, even with Gase over there. Ajayi has not looked that good compared to last year. A lot of it has been the situations they've been in terms of game to game, but that's just it. They can't keep up offensively with other teams. And on the flip side, the Falcons are an offensive juggernaut. Defensively, they're no slouches either. They've got talent. They're getting better and better defensively every year. And I think their bye came at a perfect week after that loss to the Bills. I think they're going to be yearning for a win at home. They're a dangerous team. They're going to put up a lot of points, and the Dolphins, to me, just can't keep up with that offensive pace. I think Cutler is due for a couple interceptions in this game as well. That defense for the Falcons is really aggressive, which spells a long day for Cutler. So I think as far as picking this game outright, pretty simple. I like the Falcons at home. They've had time to prepare. They're pissed off from the last loss, so I like the Falcons. Now, in terms of the spread, pretty high number for the Falcons. They're a -11.5 at home. I'm going to go ahead and say that this game gets decided by 2 touchdowns, right around that range. Maybe a point more, point less. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead, pick the Falcons as well to cover the spread. Next, we've got the Bears at the Baltimore Ravens. And looking at the Bears, Trubisky finally made his long-awaited debut. Unfortunately, it was spoiled by the Vikings. Close game decided by a field goal. But look, Trubisky is going to commit turnovers, which is what you saw. That Bears offense, no matter how well Trubisky plays, it's just void of playmakers. And on the flip side, that Baltimore defense is legit, and I think they're going to give a really tough matchup for Trubisky and that Bears offense. Now, I know the Ravens offensively aren't really anything special either, but I like them more than the Bears. They've got Flacco, who's been there, he's done that. He's a lot more experienced. They've got some more weapons in the wide receiver position than the Bears, which isn't saying much, but still. I think this game, though, however, comes down defensively to the mistakes they're going to be able to cause for Trubisky. I expect a couple turnovers. I expect the Ravens to capitalize on those turnovers. When it's all said and done, I like the Ravens at home. I think it's gonna be a defensive game for them. Probably not too high scoring, and if it is high scoring, it'll be in favor of the Ravens. Like I said, because of defensive turnovers. As far as the spread goes, -7.5 for the Ravens. I am a little bit wary of this. Recently, the Bears have been covering the spread, and the Ravens, I think they tend to play closer games than they should. So for that reason, I'm actually going to take the Bears. In terms of the spread, I think maybe they get some garbage time points, and they keep the close score kind of game. From here, we've got an AFC matchup with the Browns at the Texans. Browns still 0-5, Texans 2-3. They had a tough loss to the Chiefs, lost Whitney Merciless, lost J.J. Watt, so that defense took big hits. And on the flip side, the Browns making a quarterback change on the road in Houston. To me, that spells trouble. I haven't seen anything really offensively from the Browns. That running game, really non-existent to me. Crowell just doesn't seem to have it. I don't think things are going to turn around for them versus the Texans. I think, if anything, the Texans are going to be motivated, having lost some of their leaders on defense, to step up and play really well. Offensively, I think you got to give the edge to the Texans. Deshaun Watson has been a really nice spark. Now, I don't think he'll be able to keep up the momentum he's had in his last 2 weeks. Maybe against the Browns, he has a pretty respectable game because, they're still the Browns and they have holes offensively and defensively. They're on the rise, but it's going to be a slow rise. They're still rebuilding. With the Texans, they have too many weapons offensively, so for me, this is a pretty simple game. I got to go with the Texans at home. As far as the spread goes, the Texans are -9.5 at home. And like I said, Watson has provided that spark for the Texans offensively. Browns just don't have enough offensively to keep up with other teams. I think new quarterback versus a pretty decent defense spells turnovers. And I think Texans can win by at least 10 points. So for that reason, I like the Texans to cover the spread as well. Next, we have got an NFC clash with the Lions versus the Saints. And to me, this is probably going to be one of the more interesting games. I think it'll be a high-scoring affair. Lions coming off that loss versus the Panthers at 3-2. Saints coming off the bye at 2-2. To me, this has offensive shootout written all over it. Matthew Stafford loves to air it out. Their running game, isn't the priority there. It's the passing game. Same thing for the Saints. Drew Brees, now without AP, I think the Saints can go to the team that they've always been, and that is a passing first team. I think there will be a lot of points put up here. To me, I got to give the edge offensively, though, to the Saints. I think Brees will make less mistakes than Matthew Stafford when it's all said and done. Also, I think this game is going to be really close. To me, this is probably the biggest coin flip of a game all week. But for that reason, I'm going to give the slight edge to the home team. Defensively, I know the Saints have issues, but the last time we saw them play, they did shut out the Dolphins. Call me a prisoner of the moment, but I think they've made some strides defensively. But nonetheless, I think this game comes down to the two offenses, where I do like the Saints a little bit more. Outright, I'm going to go ahead, pick the Saints. In terms of the spread, however, they're at -4.5. So I could see this game being decided late in the fourth quarter by a field goal. For that reason, I like the Lions. So I'm going to take them in terms of the spread, and also because to me it is kind of a coin flip and kind of an insurance pick. Continuing on, we have got a divisional matchup, Packers at the Vikings in Minnesota. Now with Packers sitting at 4-1, really impressive win versus the Cowboys, coming back late to win it, dramatic fashion. Showed you that Aaron Rodgers truly is one of the best, if not the best quarterback in this league behind Brady, and that offense should not be slept on with the Packers. Flip side, the Vikings narrowly beating rookie quarterback Trubisky and the Bears, but nonetheless, they got the win. Now, Sam Bradford didn't even look close to 100%. Case Keenum, I think the Vikings got to go with him again because he gave them a little bit of a spark. Stephon Diggs, though, not going to play in this game. Jerick McKinnon looked really nice. I think he's going to be the heir apparent to Dalvin Cook. I think all those Latavius Murray stories were overplayed. It's going to be McKinnon. He's looked really well, and I would expect him to have a big game with Diggs out, kind of leaning on him. But still, you got to give the edge to the Packers offensively, no doubt about it. They've got Rodgers. They've got all those other weapons in the wide receiver position, and Jones has played really well in the absence of Montgomery. Now, defensively, it's another story. Packers have way too many holes. They're susceptible to get beat, whereas the Vikings are very sound on defense. Now, even with that being said, even though this is a divisional game and it's in Minnesota, I cannot look away from the massive advantage the Packers have offensively, and I think even when they go up against a good defense, that defense is going to break a little bit when they face Aaron Rodgers, and I just don't think the Vikings will be able to keep up with that kind of offense. So for that reason, I like the Packers to win on the road, and I think it could be, you know, a hard-fought game, divisional game, but I got to give the Packers the edge with Aaron Rodgers. In terms of the spread, Vikings are at +3.5, but I think this game will get decided by more than a field goal, and for that reason, I got to give the Packers the edge. I like them to cover in terms of the spread as well. Moving on, we have got an AFC divisional matchup with the Patriots at the Jets, and both these teams surprisingly sitting at 3-2. And who would have thought that at this point the Patriots and the Jets would have the same record? But nonetheless, that is the case. With the Patriots, there have been some concerns. Brady won't play. Oh, Gronk has been limited. And I would say don't worry about it. Brady's going to play. I think Gronk's going to play. He had his time off. And offensively, the Patriots are the best team in all of football. They've got weapons all around. You know, obviously there's concerns with their defense, but their offense makes up for it. And on the flip side, the Jets, well, the Jets have benefited from some weak competition in their wins. And for that reason, you got to go with the Patriots. I think this is a no-brainer. You know, they're going to be able to put up points. The Jets, as bad as that New England defense is, the Jets are not going to be able to keep up offensively with the Patriots. For that reason, I like the Patriots on the road. Look for them to start going on that upwards win trajectory right around this point. I think they're going to crank off a lot of wins consecutively here. The Patriots are. As far as the spread goes, the Jets +9.5 at home. And honestly, I look for this to be a statement win for the Patriots. I'd like for them to go and put it on their divisional opponent in the Jets and say, you know, to the entire league, you know, we're okay, we'll be just fine. And for that reason, I like the Patriots to cover. I think they'll win by at least 10 points, if not more. So I like the Patriots to cover the spread as well. Shifting back to another NFC matchup, we have got the 49ers at the Redskins. And the 49ers, another one of these 0-5 teams, whereas the Redskins, coming off their bye week, have actually looked really good. I know their record is 2-2, but I think that you shouldn't let that kind of get you mixed up, because they had some close losses versus the Eagles and versus the Chiefs that could have gone either way, and the Redskins actually look like a decent football team, if not, you know, kind of dangerous. So at home, coming off of a bye week, with Cousins looking like he's starting to figure it out, starting to click with his offensive guys, you got to give the edge offensively to the Redskins. Defensively, they'll be without Norman, but I still think they have more pieces than the 49ers, excuse me. 49ers are rebuilding on all phases, and you got to give the edge to the Redskins all around. So I like the Redskins at home to cover the spread as well. They're at -9.5. I think they're starting to hit their stride. They've had game time planning for this game because of the bye, so I like them outright. I like them to cover the spread, win by at least 10 points. Continuing on, we have got the Rams versus the Jaguars in Jacksonville. And again, kind of a surprising clash here. We've got the Rams sitting at 3-2, the Jaguars sitting at 3-2. Both these teams have been somewhat of a pleasant surprise. Now with the Rams, we finally saw what happens when they go up against a really good defense in the Seahawks. Now, it was a close game, don't get me wrong, but the Rams ended up, taking that kind of expected offensive plunge and not being able to put up a lot of points. We did see a Gurley touchdown kind of get robbed with his fumble out of the end zone for a touchback. I think that could have been a very different game if that call goes differently. So I would keep that in mind. The Jaguars defense has looked really good. They put it on the Steelers, absolutely just killing Big Ben. 5 turnovers, ridiculous. And I do think they're a good defense, but they're not as good of a defense to me as the Seahawks. And I think somewhat the Rams are going to be a little bit pissed off in their loss that could have gone either way versus the Seahawks in that divisional clash. I think, to me, they can come in Jacksonville, who the Jaguars have been a very up and down team. They've had some impressive wins, and then they go and have a loss to the Jets. And then next week, they go and beat the Steelers big time, and what's going to happen this week versus the Rams. So for that reason, I kind of like the Rams a little bit more. I think they go back to what we saw in the first portion of the season, and I think it'll probably be a close game, but I like the Rams to distance themselves later on in this game. They also have some defensive pieces that can make Bortles make mistakes, so it'll be a close game to me, but at the end, the Rams distance themselves and get the win. As far as the spread goes, Jaguars are -2.5 at home, and like I said, I think they've just been too up and down, so since I do like the Rams outright, I also got to give them the edge and say they're going to go with the spread as well. Next, we have got the Tampa Bay Bucks at the Arizona Cardinals. Buccaneers sitting at 2-2, Cardinals sitting at 2-3. With the Bucks, they had their narrow loss to the Patriots Thursday night last week, so it's been a while since we've seen them play. And the Cardinals got absolutely demolished by the Eagles. And defensively, in the past game, they've had issues. Offensively, even with Adrian Peterson arriving there, that offensive line has issues. Adrian Peterson is not going to be a replacement for David Johnson. He's way too old. He doesn't bring as much in the passing game. He will not be able to replace him, and maybe he gives them a little bit of a spark, but I don't think it'll be enough. I do think this will be a low-scoring game. Bucks probably come out victorious. I see a winning score for them, low 20s, and the Cardinals probably put up somewhere in the low teens if I had to guess. For that reason, I do like the Bucks on the road. They're just more balanced offensively than the Cardinals right now. Not saying they're an offensive juggernaut, but they are better than the Cardinals offensively. And the Cardinals are just a mess right now. I've been saying it before, they're on the decline, and they are close to becoming irrelevant for the next couple of years, with Palmer looking like he's done, and the defensive issues that they've had. So gotta go with the Bucks. As far as the spread goes, Cardinals are +2.5. I think by all means this game gets decided by at least a field goal, so I gotta give the Bucks the edge in terms of the spread as well. Next, we've got an AFC clash with the Steelers at the Chiefs, and Steelers coming off a embarrassing loss versus the Jaguars, yet they're still 3-2, but the Chiefs, the lone undefeated team in the NFL, 5-0, perfect. And for all those people that were hoping the Steelers would have an easy chance to rebound after that bad loss versus the Jaguars, that's not exactly how things worked out, because the Chiefs one of the most fundamentally sound teams in all of football right now. They play really smart offense, don't turn the ball over, and defensively, they play really aggressive and don't let up the big plays. Now, I think this is just a bad matchup, bad timing for the Steelers. The Steelers have all the weapons offensively, but this is a road game. We all know the road woes they have had. As far as guys that they have, obviously Brown, Bell, and Bryant can all break off at any point in time, but I think the Chiefs are just too balanced that when it's all said and done, they'll be able to come back and lock down defensively, force a couple more turnovers. Big Ben has looked really turnover prone, and on the flip side, you know, both defenses pretty good. I think you can call it a coin flip, but I just think at this point the Chiefs, you know, they're on a roll. They're more fundamentally sound. They're at home, so I got to give them the edge. You know, Steelers probably do have more offensive weapons, but the Chiefs right now, they're just clicking on all cylinders, and they're on a roll. So at home, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. As far as the spread, you know, a little bit harder because I do think this will be a close game. Chiefs are at -3.5, and I could see it being decided by a late field goal, but I'm going to go ahead and say that the Steelers, you know, have some issues on the road, and the Chiefs, just too sound, too balanced, are going to be able to win by at least 4 or 5 points. So I'm going to say Chiefs cover the spread as well. From here, we've got another AFC divisional matchup with the Chargers at the Raiders. And look, you know, Chargers finally got the monkey off their back. They got that first win versus the Giants. It did take quite a while, not until the fourth quarter. And the Raiders, well, the Raiders got expectedly spanked without Derek Carr. We saw what that's like last year in the playoffs, and they're just not the same team without Carr, but he is expected to play. So to me, at home, the Raiders with Carr, he probably won't be 100%, but I think you got to give them the edge a little bit offensively. I think for everyone that's been worried about Cooper, I think he probably, with Carr back and with him having some more time, you know, to get healthy, he comes back in this game. And if I had to make one prediction, it's that Cooper is going to have a big game this week, so he'll be all right. Offensively, the Chargers, they have a lot of weapons. For them, it's all about how Phillip Rivers plays and how many turnovers he has, things like that. Defensively, you know, the Raiders, not that good of a defense. I got to give the edge to the Chargers. But it's a divisional game. I think it'll be a close game. I do like the Raiders to win at home. Don't get me wrong. With Carr there, you got to give them the edge. But as far as the spread goes, spread -6.5 for the Raiders. And like I said before, you know, this is a divisional game. These two teams know each other. I think the Chargers are going to be in a little bit of a momentum after that Giants game. If there is an upset, I will say this. If there is an upset, this is one of my prime games for an upset with the Chargers taking down the Raiders. I think it'll be a close game. And for that reason, I got to say the Chargers are going to cover the spread. And this will probably get decided by right around a field goal, in my opinion. Moving on to Sunday night, we've got the Giants at the Broncos. And what probably a lot of people had circled as a really interesting game earlier in the season, not quite that, because the Giants sitting at 0-5, Broncos 3-1 at home. And honestly, I think this game is going to go exactly how we all expect, and that is a resounding win for the Broncos. Now, with the Giants, obviously the news, Odell Beckham out for the season. Brendan Marshall out for the season. Sterling Shepard, you know, he'll be the main guy, but he's dealing with injury of his own. So Giants are pretty much void of any type of playmakers. It's going to go through their running backs. I think they're going to catch a lot of passes. Not necessarily are they going to do much on the ground. Broncos have a really good run defense. So, man, I think this is going to be a huge mismatch offensively and versus the Broncos defense. And I would say Manning is going to throw a couple interceptions. This team's just not the same without Odell Beckham. And I think a lot of those offensive line issues are going to get exposed again. Now, on the flip side, you know, the Broncos offense, I don't think it's really, you know, as potent as a lot of people would think. I think a lot of that thrives from what the Broncos defense can help them up with in terms of field position. Nonetheless, I do think they'll be able to do enough versus the Giants. Giants right now are just in a free fall, and without Odell Beckham having him back for any point this season, I think it's going to be a long year for the Giants, and I think it's safe to say that their season is done, and the Broncos are going to take advantage of that. They're going to get the win outright. No doubt in my mind about that, really. As far as the spread goes, Broncos minus 12.5, and like I said before, I think they just have the edge all around. At home, I gotta say that they're also going to cover the spread in addition. Finally, Monday night, we have got the Colts at the Titans, and Mariota looking to be back. And the Titans, Colts both by themselves sitting at 2-3. Divisional game on Monday night. Colts still without Andrew Luck. And look, you know, they got the win last week, the Colts versus the 49ers. It took overtime, but the Titans are better than the 49ers. They're better offensively with Mariota there. I expect them to rebound. I expect them to win this game. Colts just, you know, they can take advantage of bad teams. The Titans a little bit shaky on defense, so I do expect the Colts to have some success. But when it's all said and done, I think the Titans can lock down on key plays, and I think they can do more offensively than the Colts. I'll give them the edge also since they're at home, and I'll say the Titans with Mariota back are going to win this game. Colts, you know, I think they run out of steam at some point in this game, which is kind of what's been happening if you watch the Seahawks game, if you watch the 49ers game. You know, they start off all right and they kind of slow down afterwards. So as far as the spread goes, Titans minus 3.5. I do think this will be a close game, don't get me wrong. I could see it being decided by a field goal or less. Tough spread pick, but I would say I do think Colts run out of steam and the Titans can salt it away late. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead at home, pick the Titans to cover the spread too. Now, with the conclusion of our pick'em games, we can transition to locks of the week, and I've got a couple for you. First of all, Dolphins at the Falcons. I like the Falcons. I think it's a safe lock. They've had extra time to prepare, extra time to get healthy. Dolphins with Jay Cutler, they do not scare me. I'll go with the Falcons. From there, Patriots versus the Jets. Look, this game, maybe divisional game, could be a little bit closer than people expect, but I fully expect the Patriots to go in and have a convincing victory versus their divisional opponent. And then finally, I really do like the Broncos at home. The Giants, it's just an unfortunate situation for them with all those injuries and going up against a defensive nightmare in the Broncos. I think they're going to get harassed on the offensive line all day. And Broncos at home to win this game, lock it up. So with that, let me know, what do you guys think? Do you agree with my pick'em games? Do you agree with my locks of the week? If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And as always, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.